Good afternoon. I hope you are having a fabulous Tuesday. It is 12:30. I'm Julie Broughton. This is Take 6. This is when we get to hang out a little bit together after our new newscast and talk about some different things you'll see later today on News 6 and what we're working on here in our newsroom. So a nice little chance for you to have your afternoon news brief. Now, you probably woke up to a lot of fog this morning, and some of you, especially along the coast, are still dealing with some of that fog. This is what it looks like right now from our Daytona Beach Skycam. You can barely see the Vomitron there off in the distance, still talking about low visibility with some sea fog. We will talk more about this and your full forecast coming up in just a few minutes, let you know how much longer we're expecting to see these foggy mornings sticking around. And we're also going to check in with our friend News 6 anchor Justin Warmoth. He just wrapped up the noon show, and he'll be making his way over here to tell us about an investigation he's been working on for the last several weeks about the rise in online sports betting and the increase in the number of people seeking help for gambling addictions. So excited to talk to him and see what he is finding out with that. But first, it has been nearly 9 years since the Pulse tragedy took the lives of 49 people and injured 53 others. And later today, we may finally get to see what we can expect as far as a permanent memorial paying tribute to those victims and survivors. News 6's Mark Lehman shows us what we can expect at the Pulse advisory meeting later tonight.
After several years, a lot of people have been wondering if a permanent memorial would actually happen here at the site of the former Pulse nightclub, and if so, what that would look like. Well, now we're getting a better idea through several renderings that have been released here, and all of these plans will be voted on later today. It's been nearly 9 years since the Pulse massacre. During that time, there's been uncertainty on a permanent memorial for the victims, but now the city of Orlando is finishing those plans.
We gotta wrap this up now. The committee has done, I think, a really good job first in coming together.
During its final meeting today, the Pulse Advisory Committee will go through the design to honor the lives taken during the tragedy. The concepts include a reflection space formed by the footprint of the original Pulse building, 49 columns in tribute to the victims, and a garden along with an education pavilion.
They talked about plants and trees and a place to reflect. And I think this has pretty much hit the nail on the head for most of them.
The plans are happening after the city bought the Pulse property in 2023 when plans for a memorial and museum fell through. The One Pulse Foundation that was leading the effort at the time dissolved a few weeks later.
I'm not going to rehash the demise of One Pulse. I think that that's in the rearview mirror at this point.
The Pulse Advisory Committee has been working for several months on this, taking input from victims' families and survivors. Once those plans are approved, they would go to the City Council for a final vote. Today's meeting is at 4 this afternoon. We'll keep you updated with what happens. In Orlando, Mark Lehman, getting results, News 6.
And News 6 reporter Troy Campbell will be following what happens in that meeting, and he will bring it to us on News 6 starting later this afternoon, as well as online throughout the day on clickorlando.com. Now, if you're anything like me, subscription services make up a big part of your life. We're talking about food delivery, streaming services, but all of those things come with a cost. And if you're looking to save some money, that might be one place where you can tighten things up. News 6 morning anchor and insider guide Crystal Moyer has some tips from Consumer Reports on how to navigate those cancellations and save some money.
It's a year of savings for me.
Yuanith Juarez says she's been cutting back on unnecessary expenses, including subscription services.
Some of them I'm not using, and it's just wasting money.
Free trials from streaming to fitness apps and delivery services can quickly turn into monthly bills if you're not careful. Consumer Reports recommend setting a cancellation reminder in your phone's calendar. Do it when you sign up for a free trial so you won't forget and your credit card won't be charged. If you've agreed to an auto renewal, you will likely get charged unless you take action. If you keep the membership after the free trial, watch out for price increases. Companies may raise rates once the promotional period ends. If the cost is higher than expected, threaten to cancel and ask for a discount.
There are tracking tools that can help you find and cancel services, but use caution. You may need to give them access to your account, so be sure to read their privacy policies very carefully.
Review your credit card statements from the past year to check recurring charges. This is another great way to spot forgotten subscriptions. That gym membership giving you a hard time canceling? There's good news. A new rule from the Federal Trade Commission that goes into effect in May will require companies to cancel a subscription just as easily as signing up, so you shouldn't have to jump through hoops to cancel.
After canceling a subscription, keep an eye out on your bank or credit card statement. If a company keeps charging you anyway, file a dispute with your bank or credit card company.
Those were some good tips. That was News 6 morning anchor and insider guard Crystal Moyer reporting. I feel like I should have been taking notes because I'm guilty of all of those things, including forgetting to cancel. Stay with us. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we will talk more about your extended forecast, which is very warm but foggy, and we will also check in with Justin Wormuth on his investigation into online sports betting and the rise of people seeking help for gambling addictions. Stay with us. We're back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Take 6. It is 12:37. I'm Julie Broughton. If you were with us on YouTube, we were just looking at a very foggy camera in Daytona Beach. A lot of you still dealing with some reduced visibility out there this afternoon. We will talk more about that fog in your full forecast coming up in just a few minutes. But first, we're excited today to talk to our friend News 6 anchor Justin Wormuth. And Justin, you have been working on this investigation for several weeks now about online sports betting, and is there a rise in people seeking help for gambling addictions, perhaps as a result of that? So tell us what you've been working on and how you came up with deciding to do this.
Yeah, Julie, thanks for having me. Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. Full disclosure, the Hard Rock Bet app, which is available for any Floridian over the age of 21 to download, I use it. My friends use it. A lot of people in this newsroom use it. Gambling on sports has never been more popular. It's completely normalized. It's part of society, really, and part of the sports viewing experience. It's hard to avoid all of the ads, all of the talk about gambling when you're watching a sporting event. So that got me thinking, as this app has been rolled out and the accessibility has been at a point where it's never been before, is that causing an issue? And what I found is that this app and the proliferation of gambling is not a win-win for everyone.
Do you think this is a public health crisis?
It's not a crisis yet, but it's going to be one.
All right, boys, who we betting on?
The commercials are everywhere. You see them, those familiar faces, placing bets, winning big.
The advertising is very difficult to avoid.
It's the alcoholic being in a bar. It's the same analogy.
And if you look closely, you'll also see the phone number 888-ADMIT-IT at the end of every Hard Rock commercial. That number is for the Florida Council on Compulsive Gambling. It's the state's only helpline, and it connects problem gamblers with services and resources 24/7. Jennifer Cruz is the executive director.
The majority of people that gamble do so safely, recreationally. They don't develop a problem. But when they do, it can cause a lot of problems.
Since the Hard Rock app went live a little bit more than a year ago, calls for those problems have skyrocketed. In fact, in 2024, the first full calendar year the app's been available to Floridians, roughly 63,000 people reached out for help. That is nearly double the volume from the year before. The center also keeps track of just who is placing the calls for help, and about half are men in their 20s.
Yeah, so that's the newest.
Dr. Keith Buckley teaches international business at Rollins College.
It's definitely normalized, and what we're seeing is this, young men, it's a social activity. They're gambling between themselves using the app, and the variance of different games you can play. I don't know what high schools are doing, I don't know what colleges are doing in teaching about this, but it needs to be addressed because it is going to be an issue.
That's also where the council comes in. Aside from operating the call center, they do outreach and education in the community, and they start with young kids.
I mean, we're talking about, this was what, elementary, middle?
Yeah, this is elementary
You
school.
start early.
Yep.
Why?
Because prevention. It's all about prevention. Having the conversations and explaining that, yes, gambling is normalized, but there is a risk that's associated with it.
Given how easy it is to place a bet in today's online world, Cruz isn't surprised to see more people getting hooked.
There's a basic formula for risk. It's accessibility plus acceptability equals an increased vulnerability to problem gambling. So, the more acceptable and accessible an activity is, the more likely there is a chance for people to develop a problem.
Even at the center, it can be hard to tell just how many people are really struggling. Cruz says only a small percentage of people who develop a problem actually reach out for help.
I think there's a shame and a stigma associated with it. I think that people that have a problem are afraid to admit it, maybe because of the finances that are tied to it. They're afraid it might impact their career, their ability to get a job.
Part of the problem, gambling is an addiction that looks unlike any other. There is no tell. It's insidious.
It's very much like substance use addiction, similar to alcohol and drugs, but it's also very different. There's no saturation point. Somebody can only sit at a bar and ingest so much alcohol or ingest so much of a chemical or substance before they pass out or have a physical, reaction to it. With gambling, you can, with the click of a mouse, lose millions, lose your entire life savings.
So that seems to be the problem right now, is that you have a center, which, by the way, is located in downtown Sanford. It is the state's only problem gambling center in the entire state. You have the accessibility portion of this, and as we get into this is a two-part series, Julie, so this was just the initial to talk about how popular sports gambling has become, but the real story here, and what is jarring and what is baffling to me and to my producer and to a lot of people I tell about this story, is that center, the state's lone problem gambling center in the state, does not have state funding currently, and they have a staff of 7 for an operation that is 24/7, 365. 7 people, and you see the numbers skyrocketing like that. They've never been busier, despite this app generating millions of dollars in tax revenue every year. So it's a problem. We're trying to get answers and trying to fix this and try to get solutions for those who do develop a problem, because you heard in that piece right there, just because you gamble socially or recreationally doesn't mean you're going to develop a problem. But for those who do, and you see the numbers there, that's just for the people who reach out. This could be a serious issue and a public health crisis. Perhaps we're on the cusp of one.
I feel like I learned so much in this story, Justin, because obviously I'm not a male in my 20s. I'm not really like the demo. And other than a few times at Churchill Downs over the course of my life, I can say I've never placed, any sort of sports bets. First of all, I don't watch sports that much. But, talking about outreach in elementary school and middle school, it makes so much sense when you break all the numbers down. And apparently everyone but me is doing online sports betting. I mean, I don't know. It kind of blew my mind a little bit to see all that
It's
and
crazy.
see those numbers.
It is crazy. It's even crazier when you think about the number of college students who are gambling. It is 100% part of their culture, especially men. I mean, a recent NCAA study found that 60% of male students on college campuses bet on sports in some form or fashion, because, again, this is not just the state of Florida where it's legalized. This is legalized in 38 plus states and counting in the United States. A 2018 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that barred gambling in every state except for Nevada that was struck down, and that opened the door for states to legalize it however they saw fit to legalize it. And so what you're finding is a large pocket of kids, a younger generation, this is the norm. They don't remember bookies and this being, something that was taboo and not something that you would think about or talk about even. It was kind of in the shadows. Now it's on the forefront. You have ESPN even having their own sports betting platform. It is talked about in every single pregame, post-game analysis. Again, you saw the ads there, not just for Hard Rock app. We have the ads that have DraftKings, that have FanDuel, with all sorts of celebrities. Again, winning big. There's not that other side of the coin to show what can happen if you do develop a problem and spiral and lose all that money. By the way, talking to Jennifer Cruz, the executive director of the Florida Council on Compulsive Gambling, Julie, this is a crazy thing. She says that they have some cases where kids in college are using financial aid to fund their habits.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's scary to think about being a parent and not knowing that your kid is off doing that. That can have lifelong consequences, I imagine.
No doubt. I mean, it's very similar. You heard Jennifer Cruz there talk about how it's very similar to alcohol abuse, substance use abuse. There is a high suicidality with problem gambling and addicted gamblers, because before anyone has any idea that they are 50 to 100 to perhaps all their life savings being drained trying to chase what they've already lost, it gets to a point where there's no tell, there's no dice breath, you just don't know if somebody has a problem. And that's what's so scary about it, this hidden addiction. And places like the Florida Council on Compulsive Gambling are really the sole resource that we have in the state. And you have a staff of 7 people trying to operate that and trying to do not just the hotline and texts and live chats, but they're doing the outreach, they're doing the education, they're doing that as well, which they're only being currently funded by the Seminole Tribe of Florida, which operates that Hard Rock app. That's the only money that they're receiving. No state funding. That evaporated in July, and we're going to get into more of that. And you can actually check that out right now. I have a piece up on clickorlando.com that really breaks down this entire story. But for today's segment, this is part 1 of 2 parts, and likely many more, because there are just countless layers to this continuing problem.
All right, Justin, thank you so much. I read your article on clickorlando.com, so everyone go check it out. I mean, there's a lot to this, so we look forward to seeing more, Justin. Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's get a check of your forecast now. As we were looking at some of those cameras a little bit earlier, you saw still some fog hanging around. That will be the case for us again as we move through the overnight hours tonight. Here's a look right now for you at the satellite and radar imagery, showing you what's happening out there right now. Again, we have those low clouds, not a lot of that showing up on the satellite imagery, but again, no rain for the most part, although a little bit of mist in some spots with some of that fog. Now, we started the day, look how warm it was this morning. 70 was our morning low in Orlando. We started at 60 in Ocala and 69 in Melbourne. Here's a look at the southeastern United States, the setup for us. We have high pressure in control. That is bringing our winds out of the north. We have a front to our north, but that high is going to block it. So that front won't be able to make its way into central Florida. We won't be dealing with another front, it looks like, until next Monday into Tuesday. Your clouds and rain forecast as we take you through the day today. Again, our extended forecast really is mostly dry, but notice all the white on the modeling there. That shows us where we are looking at more fog moving in, more dense fog for that morning drive. So I think all of us, again, will be dealing with reduced visibility tomorrow morning, and then that fog, once again, will be slow to clear. For today, we'll be about 10 degrees warmer than normal in most spots, 82 in Sanford, 82 in Orlando and Kissimmee. You go to 82 as well in Ocala, and 79 in Palm Coast. Now, overnight tonight will again be very mild, generally falling back into the 60s, 65 in Orlando, a little bit cooler in areas like Ocala, 52 for your overnight low. Most of us tomorrow morning will be looking at visibility less than a quarter mile. 82 for your high again tomorrow, and then we keep it generally in the 80s as we move into next week. Again, we'll be watching a front that will come in Monday into Tuesday, and as we're tweaking things later today, we may add a few isolated showers for Monday into Tuesday. With that front, our overnight lows stay in the low to mid 60s, so well above normal and mostly dry. We will talk much more about your forecast for you coming up on News 6 at 4. If you have any questions or comments for us here at Take 6, head to clickorlando.com/take6. Let us know what's on your mind. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you on TV at 4.